Have you ever witnessed nature's most feared predators abandon their hunting instincts for something far more powerful, where ancient rivalries dissolve in moments of desperate need? This isn't your typical wildlife encounter. Deep in the Zambezi Valley, something extraordinary unfolded that left wildlife experts questioning everything they knew about apex predator behavior. Today's story begins with an impossible act of heroism, one that would redefine our understanding of compassion in the animal kingdom and prove that sometimes the fiercest hearts hold the greatest capacity for mercy. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Along the mighty Zambezi River, where the waters carve through Zimbabwe's most untamed wilderness, lies mana pools, a pristine floodplain that pulses with life during the wet season and transforms into a golden savannah cathedral when the waters recede. This UNESCO World Heritage site stretches across thousands of acres of untouched African wilderness, where ancient mahogany and fig trees tower like natural skyscrapers above a landscape dotted with seasonal pools that mirror the endless sky. Here, the boundaries between different ecosystems blur into something magical. Dense riverine forests give way to open grasslands, while rocky outcrops provide elevated sanctuaries for creatures seeking refuge from the seasonal floods. The air itself seems to vibrate with the constant symphony of life. The distant trumpeting of elephants, the haunting calls of fish eagles, and the gentle rustle of wind through fever trees, whose distinctive yellow bark glows like gold in the African sunlight. But mana pools harbors secrets that challenge our deepest assumptions about the natural world. This is a place where the impossible becomes reality, where ancient instincts collide with something far more profound, moments of cross-species heroism that redefine our understanding of what it means to be wild. In these sun-drenched plains where life and death dance together in an eternal ballet, the most feared predators sometimes reveal hearts capable of the most extraordinary compassion. What unfolded here on one sweltering afternoon would forever change how wildlife researchers view the emotional complexity of Africa's apex predators. It was an act so unprecedented, so fundamentally contrary to millions of years of evolutionary programming, that it forced scientists to reconsider everything they thought they knew about predator behavior and interspecies empathy. This is where our story begins, in a place where miracles hide behind acacia thorns and where the fiercest hunters sometimes become the most unlikely heroes, proving that in nature's grandest theater, love can triumph over the oldest laws of survival. Here, in the heart of mana pools roamed the Zambezi Pride, a magnificent family of lions led by Jabari, a massive male whose dark mane rippled like liquid shadow in the afternoon heat. Standing nearly 4 feet at the shoulder and weighing close to 500 pounds, Jabari commanded respect across every corner of his vast territory. His amber eyes held the wisdom of countless hunts and territorial battles, while deep scars along his flanks told stories of survival in Africa's most unforgiving wilderness. Beside him ruled Amara, the pride's lead female, whose lithe frame and intelligent golden eyes masked a fierce protective instinct that had successfully raised 4 generations of cubs in these dangerous lands. Her hunting prowess was legendary among the local rangers, but it was her nurturing nature that truly defined her character within the pride's complex social structure. The pride included 6 other adult lions, 3 experienced females named Zuri, Django, and Casey, along with 2 younger males, Tau and Bomani, who served as Jabari's loyal lieutenants. Together, they had established dominance over a territory spanning nearly 50 square kilometers of prime hunting grounds along the river's edge. What made this particular pride extraordinary wasn't just their impressive size or hunting success. It was their unusual tolerance for other species. Unlike most lion prides that maintained strict territorial boundaries, Jabari's family had developed an almost diplomatic relationship with their neighbors. They had been observed sharing watering holes with elephants, showing restraint around leopard cubs, and even displaying curious interest in the activities of the local baboon troops. This remarkable openness to interspecies interaction had puzzled wildlife researchers for years. Some theorized it was due to the abundant prey in their territory, which reduced competitive pressure. Others believed Jabari's exceptional leadership had fostered a more confident, less aggressive pride dynamic. Whatever the reason, this unusual behavioral trait would prove crucial to the extraordinary events that were about to unfold. setting the stage for an act of heroism that would challenge every assumption about the nature of apex predators. The afternoon sun hung heavy over Mana pools that Thursday, casting long golden shadows across the floodplain as the Zambezi Pride settled into their favorite resting spot, beneath a massive sausage tree. The ancient giant's broad canopy provided perfect shade, while its strategic position on a slight rise offered commanding views of the surrounding territory and nearby watering holes. Jabari lay stretched out on his side, his magnificent mane catching occasional breezes that provided relief from the oppressive heat. His powerful chest rose and fell in the slow rhythm of complete relaxation, while his keen amber eyes occasionally swept the landscape with the casual vigilance of an apex predator completely at ease in his domain. The pride's females had arranged themselves in a loose semicircle around their leader, some grooming each other with methodical precision while others dozed peacefully in the dappled sunlight. Amara rested her elegant head on her paws, watching a family of warthogs cautiously approach the distant waterhole with amused tolerance rather than predatory interest. Young Tao and Bomani engaged in lazy playfighting nearby, their movements sluggish in the afternoon heat as they practiced hunting techniques with half-hearted swipes and gentle tackles. Their mock battles sent small clouds of dust drifting through the golden air, settling slowly on the scattered bones and dried grass that marked this as a well-established pride territory. The soundscape was quintessentially African. The distant splash of hippos in the river, the melodic calls of red-billed hornbills in the fever trees, and the gentle rustle of elephant grass swaying in the warm breeze. Somewhere across the floodplain, a fish-eagle's haunting cry echoed off the water, while the constant drone of cicadas provided nature's own white noise. It was the kind of perfect afternoon that embodied everything beautiful about life in the African wilderness, a moment of pure harmony where every creature existed in peaceful coexistence with their environment. The pride had no way of knowing that this tranquil scene was about to be shattered by desperate cries that would test the very essence of their predatory nature. The peaceful afternoon was suddenly shattered by a sound that cut through the drowsy heat like a blade, a series of high-pitched, panic-stricken screams that echoed across the floodplain with devastating clarity. The cries were unlike anything the pride had heard before, carrying a note of pure terror that instantly triggered every predatory instinct they possessed. Jabari's massive head snapped up first, his ears swiveling toward the source of the disturbance like twin radar dishes. The sound was coming from the dense patch of riverine forest near the old Baobab Grove, approximately 300 meters from their resting spot. His golden eyes narrowed as he processed the unusual nature of these calls. They weren't the typical distress signals of prey animals he knew so well. Within seconds, the entire pride was alert. Amara rose gracefully to her feet, her muscles tensing as she scanned the tree line with laser focus. The younger males, Tao and Bomani, abandoned their playful wrestling and moved instinctively into flanking positions, their relaxed demeanor replaced by the coiled energy of apex predators responding to crisis. The screaming continued, growing more desperate and frantic with each passing moment. What struck the lions most profoundly was the helplessness conveyed in these cries. This wasn't the sound of a creature fleeing from danger, but rather something trapped, something facing imminent death with no possibility of escape. Zuri, the pride's most experienced tracker, took several steps toward the forest edge, her nostrils flaring as she tested the wind for scent information. Her body language conveyed confusion. The smell signatures weren't matching the audio signals her ears were receiving. Something was very wrong in their peaceful territory. The forest around the distress calls had fallen into an ominous silence, as if every other creature had fled the area or was holding its breath in anticipation of tragedy. Even the ever-present bird calls had ceased, creating an atmosphere of mounting tension that made the mysterious screams even more heart-wrenching. As the cries continued to pierce the afternoon air, the pride found themselves faced with a decision that would challenge everything about their nature as Africa's most feared predators. As the pride moved cautiously through the dense undergrowth toward the source of the screaming, the scene that greeted them was nothing short of horrifying. There, caught in a deadly embrace at the base of a massive fig tree, was a baby mountain gorilla, no more than 18 months old, with soft charcoal fur and innocent dark eyes wide with terror as it struggled against impossible odds. Wrapped around the infant gorilla's torso and legs was an enormous African rock python, easily 16 feet in length and thick as a telephone pole. The serpent's diamond-patterned scales gleamed with an oily sheen in the filtered sunlight, its muscular coils contracting with methodical precision around the helpless primate. Each squeeze forced another weak cry from the baby gorilla, whose tiny hands clawed desperately at the smooth scales that held it in an inescapable prison. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The python's massive triangular head swayed hypnotically just inches from the gorilla infant's face, its cold black eyes showing no emotion as its forked tongue flicked out repeatedly to taste the fear in the air. The serpent had clearly been lying in ambush among the fig tree's massive buttress roots, when the young gorilla, separated from its family during afternoon foraging, had wandered too close to the concealed predator. What made the scene even more heartbreaking was the baby gorilla's obvious exhaustion. Its initial struggles had weakened considerably over what must have been several minutes of compression, and its cries were becoming fainter with each labored breath. The python's strategy was as ancient as it was merciless. Simply maintain pressure until the prey could no longer draw air into its lungs. The massive coils tightened incrementally with each of the infant's heartbeats, the python's prehistoric patience allowing it to wait for the inevitable moment when resistance would cease entirely. Scattered around the base of the tree were broken branches and disturbed earth, evidence of the desperate struggle that had already been raging for precious minutes. Time was running out rapidly, and one of nature's most brutal predators was methodically claiming another innocent victim in this supposedly peaceful paradise. The sight before them triggered something unprecedented within the Zambezi pride, an emotional response that defied millions of years of evolutionary programming. Jabari's massive frame went rigid as he processed the scene, his usual predatory confidence replaced by something resembling internal conflict. His amber eyes, normally cold and calculating during hunting situations, now reflected an unmistakable struggle between instinct and an emotion he had never experienced before. Amara approached the edge of the clearing with careful steps, her maternal instincts screaming at the sight of such helpless suffering. The baby gorilla's weak cries seemed to resonate with something deep within her protective nature. Despite the fact that this creature belonged to an entirely different species, her powerful muscles trembled with restrained energy as she fought the overwhelming urge to intervene. The massive python represented a formidable opponent, even for a pride of lions. Its crushing coils could easily snap bones, and its lightning-fast defensive strikes could deliver devastating injuries to any attacker. More critically, any aggressive approach might cause the serpent to tighten its grip fatally, ending the infant gorilla's life in seconds rather than minutes. Zuri paced restlessly along the perimeter of the scene, her predatory instincts warring with an inexplicable compulsion to help. The other pride members formed a loose semicircle around the tragedy, their usual coordinated hunting formation transformed into something resembling a council of concerned observers rather than apex predators. Young Tao whimpered softly, a sound none of the pride had ever heard from him before. The sight of such innocent vulnerability seemed to bypass every aggressive instinct the lions possessed, reaching directly into behavioral centers that had nothing to do with hunting or territory defense. The most extraordinary aspect of their response was what they weren't doing. Any other pride encountering this scene would have either ignored it entirely or viewed it as an opportunity for easy scavenging once the python finished its work. Instead, Jabari's family found themselves emotionally invested in the survival of a creature that should have meant nothing to them, a testament to the complex emotional lives of Africa's apex predators. 2 kilometers upstream along the Zambezi, Dr. Elena Chakafana, a Zimbabwean wildlife biologist, was conducting her weekly elephant migration survey when the urgent crackling of her radio shattered the afternoon stillness. The transmission was coming from James Moyo, a veteran anti-poaching ranger stationed at the eastern boundary of mana pools, his voice tight with concern and disbelief. Dr. Chakafana, this is James at Checkpoint 7. You need to get to grid reference Delta 9 immediately, his voice crackled through the static. I'm observing something through my binoculars that doesn't make scientific sense. The Zambezi pride is, they're surrounding something near the Baobab Grove. But they're not hunting. Their body language is completely wrong for predatory behavior. Dr. Chakafana, who had spent 12 years studying lion behavior in this exact territory, felt her pulse quicken. James was one of the most experienced field observers in Zimbabwe, a man whose understanding of wildlife behavior had been honed through 25 years of protecting these animals. If he was confused by what he was seeing, it had to be extraordinary. Without hesitation, she grabbed her emergency field kit, a comprehensive collection of tranquilizer equipment, first aid supplies, and communication devices that had seen her through countless wildlife emergencies. Her weathered Land Rover started with a familiar rumble as she began navigating the rough terrain toward the coordinates James had provided. As she drove, her scientific mind raced through possibilities. Territorial disputes between lions rarely involved the entire pride in passive observation. Hunting behavior followed predictable patterns that she could read like a book. But James's description suggested something entirely outside normal behavioral parameters. Her radio crackled again. "Doctor, I need to update my report. There appears to be a massive python involved, and what looks like a young primate in distress. The lions aren't attacking. They're just watching. I've never seen anything like this in my entire career." Dr. Chakafana pressed harder on the accelerator, her mind already shifting into crisis management mode, while her heart raced with the possibility that she was about to witness something that could revolutionize wildlife behavioral science. When Dr. Chakafana's Land Rover finally reached the coordinates, the scene that greeted her defied every principle of predator behavior she had studied throughout her career. The entire Zambezi pride had formed an unprecedented formation around the base of the massive fig tree, but instead of the aggressive posturing she expected, their body language conveyed something closer to collective concern. Jabari stood closest to the python-entrapped gorilla infant, his massive frame positioned in a way that seemed almost protective rather than predatory. Most remarkably, when Dr. Chakafana's vehicle approached, the lions didn't scatter or display territorial aggression. Instead, several members of the pride actually looked toward her arrival with what could only be described as expectant hope. Moving with extreme caution, Dr. Chakafana exited her vehicle and retrieved her specialized tranquilizer rifle, designed specifically for large snake emergencies. She had dealt with python rescues before, but never with an audience of apex predators who seemed emotionally invested in the outcome. Her hands trembled slightly as she loaded the precisely calibrated dart. One miscalculation could result in either ineffective sedation or fatal overdose for the massive serpent. James arrived moments later in his patrol vehicle, equipped with emergency medical supplies and a portable oxygen unit specifically designed for treating wildlife in respiratory distress. Together, they assessed the deteriorating situation, while the lion pride maintained their vigil around the perimeter. "I've never seen behavior like this," James whispered in amazement, as Amara actually moved aside to give Dr. Chakafana a clearer line of sight to the python. "It's like they understand we're here to help." Dr. Chakafana radioed the Matapool's veterinary unit, requesting immediate backup with specialized primate care equipment. The baby gorilla's breathing had become dangerously shallow, and time was running out rapidly. As she prepared to take the crucial shot that would determine the infant's fate, she realized she was about to participate in one of the most extraordinary interspecies cooperation events ever documented in African wildlife research. The lions watched silently, their amber eyes fixed on her every movement with remarkable intelligence and what appeared to be genuine concern. The moment Dr. Chakafana raised her tranquilizer rifle, something extraordinary happened that would be seared into her memory forever. Jabari, the massive pride leader, positioned himself directly between her and the python, not to block her shot, but to create a windbreak that would stabilize her aim in the afternoon breeze. It was as if the apex predator understood exactly what she was trying to accomplish. The atmosphere became electric with tension as Dr. Chakafana steadied her weapon, her finger resting lightly on the trigger. The baby gorilla's cries had weakened to barely audible whimpers, and she could see the python's coils tightening with each labored breath the infant managed to draw. This would be her only chance. Miss, and the compression would become fatal within minutes. Then came the moment that defied all natural law. As Dr. Chakafana prepared to fire, Amara did something that challenged everything scientists knew about lion behavior. The lead female deliberately roared, not an aggressive territorial call, but a loud, sustained vocalization that startled the python and caused its massive head to lift and turn toward the sound. It was the perfect opportunity Dr. Chakafana needed. The tranquilizer dart flew with surgical precision, embedding itself deep into the python's muscular body just behind its skull. The serpent's initial reaction was explosive. Its coils convulsed violently, causing the baby gorilla to emit one final heart-wrenching cry that echoed across the floodplain. For 30 agonizing seconds, it appeared the intervention might have made things worse. The python's massive body writhed and twisted as it fought the effects of the powerful sedative, its grip tightening reflexively around its tiny victim. Then, gradually, the ancient predator's movements began to slow. Its muscles relaxed incrementally as the tranquilizer spread through its system, the crushing coils loosening their death grip on the exhausted infant gorilla. The pride watched in absolute silence as the 16-foot serpent finally went limp, its massive body sprawling across the forest floor in chemical-induced slumber. As James carefully extracted the unconscious baby gorilla from the python's loosened coils, the most extraordinary moment of all unfolded before Dr. Chakafana's amazed eyes. Amara approached the rescue scene with deliberate caution, extending her massive paw toward the limp infant in what could only be described as a gesture of gentle concern. When the tiny gorilla stirred slightly at her touch, releasing a weak but audible breath, the entire pride seemed to collectively exhale in relief. The veterinary team arrived within the hour, immediately placing the infant gorilla on life support and beginning emergency treatment for compression injuries and respiratory distress. Remarkably, throughout the entire medical intervention, the Zambezi pride maintained their protective vigil, never once displaying aggressive behavior toward the human rescuers working frantically to save the baby's life. Within 72 hours, the young gorilla had recovered sufficiently to be reunited with its family group who had been searching desperately for their missing infant. The python, once fully recovered from sedation, was relocated to a remote section of the park where it could continue its ecological role without threatening vulnerable young primates. But the real miracle extended far beyond the successful rescue operation. Dr. Chakafana's detailed documentation of the lion's behavior sparked international scientific debate about emotional intelligence in apex predators. Video footage of Amara's strategic roar and Jabari's protective positioning became groundbreaking evidence of intentional interspecies cooperation. The incident fundamentally challenged established theories about predator psychology and emotional complexity. The Zambezi pride had demonstrated not just empathy, but coordinated problem-solving that included actively facilitating human intervention to save another species' offspring. Today, the rescued gorilla thrives with his family in the Mana Pools ecosystem, while the Zambezi pride continues to astound researchers with their remarkable behavioral sophistication. Their story serves as a powerful reminder that in Africa's wildest sanctuaries, compassion transcends all evolutionary boundaries. In the golden grasslands along the mighty Zambezi, where ancient rhythms pulse through untamed wilderness, the impossible became possible when the fiercest hearts revealed their capacity for the gentlest mercy. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.